So, hey, y'all, hey, and welcome to another session of Meditations with Marigny. So, this morning I wanted to hop on and chat with you, kind of just doing some thinking again, decompressing the online dating process. And I thought that I really was not going to talk about that much, but I do think that it is relevant to go back and reflect and kind of press out some things, like give yourself the opportunity to really kind of evaluate those things. And one of the things that I mentioned in my final video is I shared with you guys that one of the greatest things that I think came out of my online dating process was my ability to tap back into my femininity. And with me doing that, like my sister and I were talking about something last night, and we were expressing, just how girly we were raised anyway. Like my mother, she made her own clothes. If you've ever heard my story, kind of, my parents came from a very poor background. And when I say poor, they come from a very rural area in Georgia, really small town. And then it was a lot of them. So my mom had to make her clothes. Like, they didn't have money to buy clothes. So they learned to sew at a very, very early age. So she and her sisters, like, they were designers, they were bakers. One of her sisters was the main baker in our family. Another one was like a super duper cook. My mom was the one that sewed. So they did things together in their family that then helped them as a unit. So my mama kind of was the one who made most of their clothes and things of that sort. My other aunt was the one who did most of the cooking. The other aunt took on the baking. And so as a child, I learned early about working together as a team. And, the other day I talked about, working together as a team, reciprocity. And in that process, when you are looking at dating, and what I think that society has gotten away from is looking at how we can operate as a team, what we can do in order to benefit each other, not from a perspective of I'm taking away from the other person, but from a perspective of what can I add to their life. If we spend more time looking at what can I contribute to my partner versus what can I get from them, I think that it would be a better process of reciprocity. But when it comes to teamwork, so thinking about the femininity portion, when I am reflective of what came out of my ability to be able to go into that online dating process, it helped me to exude more relaxation. It has helped me to exude more calmness. When you are really operating in your true feminine era, it's almost like you not, like, the feeling is so awkward right now because I haven't felt this in such a long time, that it was like, whew, this is different. And it is. Like, I'm so calm right now that it is almost kind of scary. And when I say calm, the more that I just continue to pray and ask God to really help me to grow and develop and become who I'm supposed to be, I know also that my partner is somewhere working on himself, and he is doing the same things from that masculine perspective. I will honestly say, ladies, that sometimes it's difficult to relinquish authority, and it is difficult to rest in trusting someone to take care of you. And when I say take care of you, in trusting that they're going to look out for your best interests. When I really think about what I went through in my marriage, it broke my trust to the point that I was like, I ain't gonna never let a man, handle this. I'm not gonna never give him this much access to my finances. I'm not gonna never let him have my emotional capacity this much. Until you get to the point that you say that I am going to give that to someone again, you're not ready. And so for the woman that is out there that's looking for love and you want to experience that, you're going to have to make yourself vulnerable to him in order to be able to access those things that you said that you wanted. Prime example, I shared with one of my girlfriends that I was telling her, I said, I went into this online dating process with a very open mind. Like I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what I was going to meet, like who I was going to meet. But I went in with an open mindset that whomever I met, I was going to go into it with a mindset that this could possibly be my husband. And so if that was to be so, I wanted to vet that process properly. And what does that mean? That means that it didn't matter whether he was short. It didn't matter whether he was heavy. It didn't matter whether he was skinny. It didn't matter whether he was tall. It didn't matter whether now, physically aesthetics, there had to be a physical attraction there. If I was not physically attracted to him or he physically attracted to me, because I could tell some of the guys, they were not physically attracted to me. And on my page, everything that I had posted were pictures that were like recent pictures of me. So for instance, if I took a picture today and when I was on the site, if I was on the site, I might post that picture and put today's date, because I wanted him to be able to see who I was in my authentic self. I didn't want him to see pictures from 2 years ago, and I don't look like that anymore. And I think that that's a false advertisement, if you will, advertisement. But, I think that's a falsity. And some of the guys even did that. Some of them had pictures on there that might have been 10 years old. Well, you don't look like that anymore. And so that also made me automatically think that there might be a confidence issue, or you might have a concern, because don't draw me in one way and then you actually look another way. Let me be drawn in by, naturally on an online dating site, you're going to be drawn in by what you physically see first. And then you're going to move into whether or not we have an intellectual component. And then do we have some humor? And then, do we have some laughter? Now, do we have a level of sexual compatibility? So there are layers to relationships. But for us ladies, I want to just invite you to intentionally tap back into your femininity. You would be surprised at how much that draws a man in when you are confident and you rest in your femininity. So I'm gonna close with this portion right here. I was having a conversation with someone, and they made a comment in reference to making change. And I do believe that at our age, for those of us that are on my channel, 40 to 60, 40 to 70 years old, you got to make some level of accommodation. But one thing that I said to someone is, you can't make an accommodation for someone else. You can't make an accommodation to yourself. You can't make a change. Let me reword that, because accommodations you can do. You don't change for someone else. You change for yourself. And one of the things that I said to someone is that the things that I do, they ask me, why do I have my standards set so high? Why do you put that much pressure on yourself? Why do you have your standards set that high? And I said, that's just because that's where I want to be. So in other words, it has nothing to do with anybody else. There is not an external reasoning for me making a decision to walk in abstinence. There is an internal decision that I made, that I wanted to meet that standard, that I wanted to experience those things with only my husband, that I want to make sure that that is what I preserve for him. So there is nothing external that is causing me to do that. Now, the external portions of life are going to benefit from the internal core decisions that I made. And so what the person was saying to me is that, maybe you put too much pressure on yourself. I said, well, that's according to what pressure that somebody can handle. Some people can't handle this level of pressure. And if they can't, what that tells me is that that's not a fit for them. That's not what they're supposed to be doing. Their calling in life might be something totally different. Their person in life might be somebody totally different. But I understand what my calling is and what my purpose is and how those things are going to work together in my marriage. I know that the discipline that I have now is going to be a called discipline for when I am married. It is going to be something that is going to be tested in my marriage. I already know that. And I don't even know who the man is. As I shared with you guys, I believe I've already met my husband. I believe he's already crossed my path. And I believe that this is the season now that we both are in our cleanup space. We're in the block and delete season. We're in the gotta get rid of these connections over here. We might have some tough times and some conversations that are not pretty. We're in that season, but we are in a season where we both are working on ourselves. And in that preparation, at some point, our paths are going to cross again, and we are then going to become one unit. But I'm saying that to you because if you make a change for someone else, this is a key point. Key point. If you make a change for someone else, and this is why so many marriages have had breakdowns, because I can tell you that because it was in my own marriage. The changes that my ex-husband was making, he could do it for 30 days. He could do it sometimes for 60 days. But after that time period, it was going back to what it was before because he was not making the changes because that's what he wanted to do internally. It was not an inward change. He was making the change because I was mad or I was upset or I was frustrated or I was fussing because of certain things that were going on. And then I would think that, okay, he got it because I said it. But guess what? He didn't get it because that wasn't an internal desire. That wasn't something that he wanted to work on within himself. And I'm not blaming him for that. I just ended up having to accept that people change when they want to change, not when you decide that you want them to change. And people not going to change just because, like, sometimes people say, oh, he'll change when you get ready to leave. Well, and then they'll say, oh, he changed for the next woman. Well, no, maybe he really learned from the last one. Maybe he really did say maybe I could have did some things differently and I could have maybe made some adjustments. And maybe he did say, because I lost so greatly there, I'm going to make sure that I don't mess up over here. So we all benefit from the things that we grow out of. We all benefit from the things that we grow into. But in the end, women, ladies, make sure that you are walking in your femininity because that's what God naturally called us to do. And when you do that, to be honest, you will begin to make the adjustments and the accommodations that are needed for your mate. It will happen very naturally, very organically, very automatically. And I can only speak to you from a perspective that I'm preparing myself for the changes that I'm going to have to make. I'm mentally preparing myself. I'm physically preparing myself. I'm emotionally preparing myself because I understand the assignment that is going to come along with what my duties will be as a wife are going to alter also who my husband is. It's going to complement him to a point that it's going to help him to be a better version of himself. And the more that he becomes a better version of himself, the more it's going to cause me to be a better version of myself. And so, ladies, I will just say to you, enjoy walking in the feminine space. Enjoy, and I'm not talking about the fake stuff. I'm talking about really sit with yourself and ask yourself, what areas of my life can I refine to make sure that I am walking in a more feminine energy and that I am also walking in an authentic energy that is going to complement the man that God sends for me. All right, y'all. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, click like. I'd love you to share it with a friend, and I want you to subscribe. Have an awesome day. Bye.